Hi, I'm John Sicotte, executive editor of the Brewer Magazine. Welcome to another edition of the Brewer Magazine podcast, being sponsored by Keg Logistics. Thank you to them for being a sponsor here of the Brewer Magazine podcast. All right, let's go back into the archives. We got CBC 25 coming up in Indianapolis in just a few weeks. But let's go back to 2023 with our archives, caught up with Davin Kellan Bartosch of Wiseacre in Memphis, along with Amanda Thompson, their COO. And we talked a lot about competing with Craft Pilsner and why Wiseacre was digging in with their tiny bomb Pilsner and how it was being a success for them. This was our cover story from March and April of 2024, so just about a year ago, but we talked with them about 9 months before that and had an opportunity to talk with them. Let's dig into the archive and find out more about Tiny Bomb, Craft Pilsners, and what's going on with Wiseacre for their first 10 years plus of growth. This Brewer Mag podcast is sponsored by Keg Logistics. Now's the perfect time to review your keg management strategy. Whether you're seeking a truly flexible keg rental program or intrigued by the seamless distribution freedom of paper fill, Keg Logistics is ready to craft a personalized solution for you, ensuring you receive the kegs you need precisely when you need them. For details, visit keglogistics.com/brewermag. Keg Logistics, modern solutions for keg efficiency.
Well, first off, like we were kind of talking about, 10 years. I'm sure you've blown up multiple business plans since then. How has the first 10 years for you guys been completely different than what you expected? Or what was expected?
I don't know. It's funny because I got breakfast today with Brian Golding from Rheingeist.
Oh, okay.
And we were friends out west. He worked for Dr. Shed. I worked for Sierra Nevada. And we met 14 years ago. And so we were both kind of talking about that this morning. And a lot's changed, that we couldn't foresee. I think one of the coolest things about it is that, 10 years ago, I think people were like a little ahead of the curve on beer styles and brewing. And David really wanted to make a Pilsner. And I don't think we didn't see that becoming our best-selling beer and really kind of leading the way for us. So that's been probably the best surprise because you can't plan for lightning in a bottle like that.
Yeah. And is that, it's got to be the bulk of your volume? Is like what percentage?
It's like crossing 50%
Really?
now.
Yeah.
So it's right there. It was 48%.
Did you have to stick with it? Or was it always, did you ever have that time of thinking about, do you need to lay back on it, or was it continually selling well for you guys?
Yeah, it started as a smaller portion of our sales. Ananda, which is our IPA, was the early leader for sure. And, every year we've made more Tiny Bomb than the year before.
Mm-hmm.
But to kind of answer my take on your previous question was just that I thought I'd be bartending when I was 50. I thought we would be in the mode of working a bunch of different jobs all the time, which I guess we still kind of are to some extent. But
Sure.
I thought that we'd be doing every possible thing at the brewery every single day, and it's obviously with growth and all of that comes change, and you get people that are better at a lot of the things than you were, and it makes our the business of the company better than it would have otherwise.
Yeah. What was the point where you guys saw we can grow this, we can move? Was that always a part of that business plan, or was it are you doing what you wanted to do, or did you adapt it? Because nowadays, not a lot of people are doing distribution like you guys are doing. Not a lot of people are growing, building a 100,000 barrel facility, and you're succeeding at it at this point.
I think it's yes to both because, he wanted to make Pilsner, and I was living out west, and I don't think people were that excited about lager at the time in the craft industry, but it's what he really wanted to do, and I didn't really get it. But it was the first beer we made in Ananda, like you said, but the Tiny Bomb won the medal at the Great American Beer Festival our first year in 2014. And then we were kind of growing around the state, and everything was still pretty equal. When we launched in New Orleans was the first time it really made sense that Tiny Bomb helped us stick out in a really big way. Because with IPAs, you're competing with locals everywhere and the national IPAs that are really great beers, and that's the biggest part of our whole craft beer category is hoppy beer. So we got to stick out in a really unique way. with amazing beer. Memphis has the softest water in the country. It's all this kind of stuff that like that was the light bulb moment for Tiny Bomb was kind of the metal plus New Orleans.
Was it just Memphis? I mean, you guys are from there, right?
Mm-hmm.
So was it just that at the beginning, just the thought process of we want to be a great brewery for Memphis, or did you already think we wanted to be able to expand and have those ideas?
We wanted to grow for sure,
Yeah.
and that's what I was doing. I worked for a distributor, and I worked for Sierra Nevada doing sales. So he was going to run that part, I was going to run the other part, and it definitely happened faster. So we maxed out our first facility really in 2016. So we had a little blip there from 2010 to 2016 where I think we were the 8th fastest growing brewery in the country. And then it kind of plateaued until we built the new facility.
What was the volume that you were producing at that point where you were
Right at 20,000 barrels.
Yeah.
Just like humming along. Really 4 years. I think we were like 17 or so 2016, but just ramped up a little bit for 3 more years.
Did you have to, were you putting a new brew house in, or did you guys start with a bigger brew house then?
We didn't want to get caught in a situation where it grew and then we had to replace the brew house like a year or two in. So it ended up being a really good size to start off with, even though I'd only been working in pubs, 10-barrel brew houses, like as large as it got. So it seemed very large, but also it ended up making sense pretty quickly.
Yeah. How important was it? And were you in the industry doing industry stuff before too? So I mean, you guys both had kind of experience going into this. How important was that to launch your own, knowing what you kind of knew going in? Did that help?
Yeah. Well, to sort of answer your earlier question at the same time.
Okay.
When we, when the kind of like plot was hatched, it was definitely we didn't know we didn't know the brewery was going to be in Memphis. So we felt like we had to prepare for it in a way that, we could, I wanted to make the best beer that we could make anywhere. Like it wasn't, I didn't want to make the best beer in Memphis. We approached it from that perspective.
Okay. Kind of what we're going back to and just building, I feel like I'm getting a press release from you guys that you're adding another territory every, 6 weeks to 3 months. Why is now the time for you guys to do that? And this can, whoever wants to answer that, if it's from your side or how she thought about,
I mean, the answer, I feel, so redundant, but I think it's Tiny Bomb that we have a way to stick out. It's an amazing beer, and Davin should probably talk about it more. It's his little princess, as I think he likes to call it at times, but, the soft water in Memphis is a huge deal for making a great lager, and we can go anywhere in the country and say this is one of the best of these you can get. And that's pretty cool. And it's fun for me to do it because I'm just really bragging on my brother and the staff, on her brother, on everyone that helps make our beer great. But that's a way that a lot of people aren't going to market, which sounds like a really salesy term, but there's 9,000 plus breweries in the country now. There's distributors all over the country. Not a lot of them are coming to them and saying, like, here's what we want to do. We want to put our energy into a Pilsner and find a way to win.
in this market though? Like who are you competing with then? I mean, are you going for that macro drinker, or do you think there's enough now, like that mix of people that are kind of in between all the way to the craft beer nerds that are getting into lagers all of a sudden?
I think all of the above.
Yeah.
And I give Davin a lot of credit for being in love with light lager, before I was. But we definitely, I think maybe more importantly than like with craft, is we want the domestic drinkers and the import drinkers to realize like here's something that's made in our country for one, but that it has so much. That's the name of the beer. It's tiny alcohol flavor bomb. So it's got a ton of flavor, but it's not super offensive. There's still hop bitterness, but it's not an IPA. It's a really drinkable beer. So it's I think for us, it still is way more. We want the domestic and import drinkers to pick up Tiny Bomb, but we're also on the shelf with a bunch of other craft beers too.
Yeah, I mean the beer was. I mean, Tiny Bomb was built on me talking to people. I brewed it. This is a kind of a joke at Wiseacre, but I used to work at Rock Bottom, and the beer was built around going to the bar and asking people, what they were drinking at Rock Bottom, and then like why were they drinking that, and then what did they drink at home, and always hearing people drinking Bud Light, Miller Lite, Coors Light, and it being kind of frustrating for me because I felt like I worked a lot harder and deserved. I felt like the beers that we were making deserved more attention. But whenever you talk to people that drink Bud Light, the answer to why are you drinking this is never because it tastes really good. It's always like, I can drink 5 of them and not be messed up. Lower calories. It's light. It's drinkable. So the idea with Tiny Bomb was to make something that hit all the specs of Bud Light. So about 125 calories, 4.5% alcohol, super crushable. But we wanted something that had a lot of flavor as well. So it's kind of all of those things are the reasons why we made the beer. And there's a little bit of honey in Tiny Bomb as well, which is what helps it dry out a lot. That makes it really drinkable, but still keeps the ABV low.
Very cool. I was reading back to when we did the last pint, which would have been late 2000 or 2020 or early 2021. You guys I just read a quick quote, so you can fill me in on it. But you felt like it was getting better and better. Was it process? Was it equipment? What has made it better and better over the years?
I think, and not just me, but I feel like a lot of our staff are perfectionists, and beer's an agricultural ingredient. An agricultural product. Like, we have to, every year we get different hops than we got the year before, and we get different malts than we got the year before, and we have to make something as close to what we were making as before. But with constant production, you learn what things you're doing right and what things you're doing wrong, and teeny tiny little switches are kind of what changes something from good to great. So really being able to fine tune the beer over the years, I think it gets better all the time, and especially with the jump to the newer brewery that we have in downtown Memphis. We have a lot of technology and equipment that allows repeatability, consistency, and efficiency that we never could get out of the brewery before. So that's probably the biggest leap forward in the quality of all of our beers, but Tiny Bomb as well.
Gotcha. Just thinking on your why now question too, and had something to add as well. Just thinking about, I was talking about why it's now for us, but I think for customers, for people, consumers, whatever. Mm-hmm. There's been so much focus on extreme beer. I feel like more so in the past 4 or 5 years maybe. When we opened, I feel like there's a lot of IPA and barley wine and imperial stouts, and then it's lots of hazy stuff, and big chunky beers, fruited sours, and everything is $24 4-packs, and I think people are kind of tired of that. And we talk about food a lot, because people don't eat extreme food, all the time. You don't eat ghost pepper wings every night for dinner, or foie gras, or something super rich. And beer, I think Tiny Bomb is a beer flavored beer. It's like the pizza of beer. A really good Pilsner, really good pizza can be the best meal, or whatever. Chicken tenders, pick something normal that's really good, and that's what Tiny Bomb is. So I think there's been the pendulum swinging back from extreme beer on the consumer level, and Tiny Bomb's right there.
Sure. Since that is such a big part of your portfolio, and you're going out, how are you guys approaching it in sales? Are you working with distributors? Are you putting boots on the ground? Are you building a sales team through that? What was the thought process in that aspect for you guys? Because it's always key, because you could just be a pretty can on a shelf if it's not the right partnership.
This Brewer Mag podcast is sponsored by Keg Logistics. Now's the perfect time to review your keg management strategy. Whether you're seeking a truly flexible keg rental program or intrigued by the seamless distribution freedom of paper fill, Keg Logistics is ready to craft a personalized solution for you, ensuring you receive the kegs you need precisely when you need them. For details, visit keglogistics.com/brewermag. Keg Logistics, modern solutions for keg efficiency.
I think the thing you just said is probably the most important, is having really good distributor partners. I think is maybe the most important thing. We have an awesome sales team. We have a great key accounts manager. We have people that travel that love our company. But there's also, we're spread out. We're in 21 states. And we've got a lot to do. So we have distributor partners when they really love lager and Pilsner. Doesn't have to be Wiseacre or Tiny Bomb, but when they tell us that they're excited about lager, that's a good sign for us. And so we have great partners like that. There's certainly challenges on that front too, but that's the most important part of our strategy, I think. And then our sales team, I think, are a lot of rock stars, that love our brand, but they know how to sell. Like, it's not like they're just out there having fun drinking beer. Like, they know how to go and talk to every tier of our industry and how to manage growth and build towards it.
How's in-house? You guys, you have 2 locations now, right? So both are still open. Full tap rooms and everything. How do you put what's in the tap room out there, or the other way around? What people are seeing on the shelves is kind of the same experience. I mean, how do you guys differentiate or make them the same so that if someone's visiting you locally, they know what you're about, or when they leave, they know what to get on the shelf, and it reminds them of that.
Yeah.
Do you guys have a different thought process of what people are getting from you guys, whether it's in-house or on retail?
Well, I mean, our 2 different tap rooms have very different identities.
Oh, do they? Okay.
And very different looks, to a large extent, different customer bases. Being in downtown, we've attracted a lot more tourists than I think we ever did at the Broad location. And there are people that will visit both, but a lot of times they kind of choose the one that fits best with the drinking experience they're looking for. But in both spaces, Tiny Bomb is still prominently featured. It's still the thing that we always want to have on tap for people. And we look for novelty. We try to have a variety of specialty products, RTDs that we've started producing within the last couple of years as well, to cater to different drinking styles. But being able to have a few different identities to attract different customer bases while still staying consistent to the Tiny Bomb theme has been powerful for us.
What's the beer culture there for you guys, and especially looking back 10 years? How is, do you feel you've either got into it or helped change it a little bit? I mean, what's your thought process on, who was there, who'd you learn from, how have you adapted, helped change that area? Open forum on that one.
We definitely both went away to learn things, and his was on making beer in Chicago, and we both had really good mentors. Honestly, Pete Crowley for Davin, who's a highly decorated brewer in Chicago, and then I get to work out west, so we got to see some great beer markets and come back to one that was less developed. But everybody, I think, before we were open, were so excited, and that's been really fun just to have retailers, or local distributor, and people that are just pumped. But some of it's brand new information. Like, I didn't know something like this existed. So we get to kind of tell some of those stories. Davin's talking about smoke beer, and we try to incorporate education into a lot of things we do. We want to make it fun, not like too heady or bookish, but talk about whatever, Lombard and smoke beers, and invite people kind of on the journey with us. Is sort of in our approach, and our name really was meant to capture that. Like, we want this to be fun. We want it to be educational, but we're sort of against beer nerdery. So I hope we've been able to help be a part of it, and in the South and Memphis especially, in terms of growing the beer culture. But we wanted it to be fun and not like, stay away, you don't like barley wines or whatever. That's never been our approach.
What is the beer culture, and how have you developed it in a staff? I mean, you guys probably have to think about that. If you're in a kind of, like you said, an underdeveloped area, you're bringing in bartenders, you're bringing in probably cellar people that maybe don't have that experience going in. How have you guys had to build your staff in the city? Was it pretty much grassroots at the beginning, and do you see yourself kind of being able to pull from other areas as you've grown?
I think that's an Amanda question. At the start, it was like we were all able to be friends and talk to each other. We got bigger, it's more than an Amanda question.
Well, and in the beginning, I mean, you guys brought in a lot of people from outside Memphis to get things started.
Oh, okay.
I mean, a lot of the early production hires were folks that Davin had worked with or knew from school, and they came in because of the experience they could bring to things. But that's something that has definitely evolved over time. I mean, we've been able to bring in folks that have some experience, maybe at smaller breweries or different breweries, but we've also brought folks in without experience or with related experience. We've had people come in on our production team that have lab experience and quality control, but not necessarily within this industry. Within the tap room, we bring in bartenders who are experienced bartenders, but we also bring in teachers who are looking to pick up a part-time job over the summer and have never poured a beer in their life. And so we try to provide a lot of the education that we want people to have about our products. I think it's something that's been particularly challenging since the pandemic. I think we used to spend a lot more time focused on beer education for our staff and for the community at large. And I really feel like within the last year is the first time within the past few that we've been able to start putting more focus back on that and try to create those educational spaces and group events and learning opportunities where we can bring people back together in a way that's focused on that education and trying to build that knowledge base.
I'm going to tag onto that because she gave an amazing answer. And the answer that she said in there really, I think, is we've tried to hire great people, and it doesn't always work. And we try to take that super seriously, which she's made that process go so well. But even when we interviewed her the first time, she actually didn't get the job she interviewed for. But we all sat around, my brother and I and our partner, and just said, we need to hire her because she just needs to be here because she's talented and hardworking and like curious. Like we knew all that. And so she mentioned people from different industries. Like we had somebody from yogurt that worked for us. One of our best salespeople has been with us for 7 years as well. He was really well versed in wine, but not beer. But that didn't matter. Like he didn't have to be. He could learn the beer stuff, but he had the right personality and right skill set. Like we saw that in the interview. So we don't always get it right, but we try to take that part of it, the hiring part, very serious.
But vetting for curiosity and work ethic, I think, is the core focus when it comes to hiring for us. We do wear a lot of hats. We still, I think, run fairly lean for the size of production that we do in terms of our staffing. And to do that, you have to have people that are curious and willing to come in and stay in their lane when they need to, but also be willing to veer outside of it when opportunities arise and to cross-train and learn about different aspects of the business and grow in that process.
Yeah, I was going to say, what kind of person does it take to work there? What are you guys looking at when just an overall culture, or maybe like now you guys have so many departments, I'm sure, that you kind of have to all mesh together. I mean, do you have like 5 things that we look for in people, or like how does an interview for a job now there differ from 6-7 years ago? Do you think? How much has it changed? Do you think it's changed?
Oh, it's definitely changed.
Yeah.
We've gotten much better at the interview process on the whole. And I think that it used to be the case that we'd ask a couple of questions on the front end and get somebody in the door and kind of figure it out once they got there. And I think that we vet people a lot more intensely than we used to. We're, going through an initial phone screen and then usually 1 or 2 interviews for most of our full-time positions. We try to keep the questions a mix of process and job-oriented, and also, fun questions about favorite childhood memories and experiences that are pivotal not just to the work people are going to do, but to who they are at their core. Within that, though, just trying to find the right combination of people. I don't know that there's a clear answer for it, other than we try to keep a pretty open mind about the different types of people that we're bringing in and try to give them as much opportunity to get to know us during the interview process as for us to get to know them, because it's got to be a fit for them. And when we find that we're a fit for people, it often works the other way around.
This Brewer Mag podcast is sponsored by Keg Logistics. Now's the perfect time to review your keg management strategy. Whether you're seeking a truly flexible keg rental program or intrigued by the seamless distribution freedom of paper fill, Keg Logistics is ready to craft a personalized solution for you, ensuring you receive the kegs you need precisely when you need them. For details, visit keglogistics.com/brewermag. Keg Logistics, modern solutions for keg efficiency.